You
Okay,
started the
so
broadcast.
by accident, but there we go. So
Okay,
we started. Can we stop the recording and restart it again, or is it too late?
Patrick would know more than I would about that.
Never done that before.
Yeah.
Never done that before. Let's just keep going with it. It's okay.
Sure.
So far, there's only 3 attendees, so let's do this very quickly. I have a test for us. Quick little test, guys. Just please go to pollev.com/machebwashik240 and see if you can write anything in there.
Okay, how about I do that as well? So, okay. Can you actually send the link in the chat?
I could, yeah.
Instead of having to physically type everything?
Yeah, I think so. Let's go chat. Where was chat?
So it says you have to introduce yourself to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're all going to this link?
Yes.
Okay. Introduce myself.
Hello, some early attendees. Please stay with us. We are planning to use something called Pollev for our communication purposes. We are going to start around 6 o'clock.
Well, it seems to be working fine. I put hello on it. So.
Perfect. Patrick?
I typed in hello.
Yeah, so the more times you write something, the more it gets bigger. So if I just write hello again, it will get bigger. If I write test, it will get bigger. If I just say yo, it will show up. So there you go.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, good. So we are good for our workshop.
So I actually put the link there where they just click on it and they can go directly to that link. So we should let people know that they must put a name, or it could be just like a nickname.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Good information there.
All right, so we'll be back in about 10. I'm just going to turn my camera off for a while, and then we'll be back around that time, I think. Around 6,
8 minutes? Yes.
In 8 minutes. Okay.
Okay. We'll be right back. I guess. Do you have your coffee there, Patrick? Oh, you should put your name on there.
My tea. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put thanks. How about you? Do you have a tea or a coffee?
Coffee.
Coffee? Yeah.
Yeah. For
Is
anybody that. Sorry?
Is it a strong coffee, or do you have it with milk and sugar?
Yeah, something like that, but it is strong, yes. Well, I'll actually, yeah, well, I mean, just to let everybody who's here with us for the moment, we're going to start right at 6 o'clock. So we're going to come back in about 5 minutes. I'll be back. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. So we're going to come right back.
Yep, we'll be back soon, everybody.
Hello? Hi, guys.
And we're back.
And we're back. Fantastic. Hello, everybody. So this is 6 o'clock, and we are here. Here we go.
I think your connection, I don't know if it's what I'm listening to, but you're cutting out a little bit. Patrick, do you get the same thing or not?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of connection issues here.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I can hear a little bit of the interference. I know this is always a technical difficulty, so we do apologize to everybody, but we will start as soon as we can.
Okay, I think this is, I don't know if it's my connection. I can try logging out and try and logging in to see if that works.
Can you hear me properly?
No, I can't.
No.
Patrick, how are you? Can I hear you?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Patrick, can you hear me fine?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so it might be my connection. I'll log off, log back in again. I know I've been having trouble this afternoon. Okay, because when I'm listening to Patrick, he sounds different too. So I'll log off.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. So hopefully everybody can see my PPT here. So yes, this is the right, you are in the right place. This is the CELPIP study skill workshop. So this is the first time we're doing a CELPIP self-study skills workshop. So this is not a workshop where we're going to be talking about what can teachers do, or which materials you need to buy, or how many classes you need to take. This is a very unique workshop where we're going to talk about self-study skills today. And as we've noticed already, Anna has disappeared for just a little bit from us for just a second here, but she's having some technical difficulties. Just guys in the chat, is everybody, the people who are here so far, everyone here, is everyone having any issues with the connection? Is everyone doing okay? And again, this is just a general question. Hi, Anna, how are you?
Good. I changed my headphones. I think that's...
It's better now.
There you go. I think maybe it was just a low battery in your headphones. That happens a lot. Maybe. There you go. Yeah. So there you go. So yes, so sometimes this happens with our online meeting methods, but there we are. Here we are. So now we are all here, so we can go ahead and introduce ourselves. So my name is Maciej Blazik. I'm the director of Summerhill Online Academy, an online language school. Our main focus at Summerhill Online Academy is CELPIP preparation. And also CALE preparation. So those are the biggest programs that we have available. So I've been working at Summerhill for just a little bit over a year now as the main director. And it started out as a school that started during COVID, just at the beginning of COVID in April 2020. And it is now a full-fledged thing. So we are always welcoming new students if you're looking for CELPIP. In any case, I've worked as an English teacher for about 15 years so far. And out of those times as an English teacher, I worked in South Korea, China, Japan. I've worked here in Canada as an English teacher. I've also worked as a communications professor at Seneca, George Brown, Mohawk College. I've also worked as an IELTS examiner. I've worked in CELPIP for many years as a preparation teacher, as a professor of communications. And so what I'm bringing with you here is not just stories from my experience, what I thought that my students have done well with in terms of their language learning, self-study methods, but also what my students have told me. So I have learned from a very early time to start to listen, to just really listen to what my students tell me, how they practice, how they prepare. Sometimes that led to success, sometimes it didn't. But what I was able to see was sort of notice and sort of recognize some of the successful strategies. Some of them were kind of surprising to me. but some of the successful strategies that my students have had in terms of self-study for any standardized language proficiency exam, including CELPIP, and also some of the strategies I brought from homework assignments and from classroom activities that went on to continue at home. So what I'm hoping to do is bring a lot of different strategies for how to prepare for these standardized tests and how to improve English language in general. Patrick and Anna, would you be kind enough to introduce yourselves to us?
Of course. Well, my name is Anna Baxter, and it's actually a great pleasure to be here today because I'm a little bit excited because this is different than the regular CELPIP presentations that we've done before. So this will give you sort of the opportunity to really think about what you can do on your own without having to purchase any material, without having to really focus on the format, more how to help yourselves internally when you're at home, what you can do in the meantime, just to help you prepare for these tests. So I'm really excited about that. But just a little bit about myself. I mean, I've been involved in testing and test centers for about 10 years now, and I've also been an ESL, EFL instructor for over 20 years. So I'm not going to tell you my age. And I think the bulk of my experiences has allowed me to really help newcomers and students be better prepared for these type of English tests, and hopefully to help people on their journey of living and studying in Canada. So I'm really excited again to be here, and thanks for inviting us, Mache.
Thank you. That's
Patrick?
perfect, Anna.
Right. Yeah, so my name is Patrick Macaron, and I've been working with Paragon for about 3 to 4 years. Time flies, so I'm losing track. But it's been a great experience. I started in customer service, really understanding what the test takers are going through and helping them to get ready for the test. And now I'm more in the business side, expanding, helping to expand test centers internationally and just grow the awareness of the CELPIP test worldwide. And within Canada. So my background is I've been working in the nonprofit sector, helping newcomers to prepare for employment. So helping them with their resumes, prepare for job interviews. And I've just been facilitating a lot of different workshops. And it's really allowed me to understand, I mean, I didn't personally go through it, but I know how difficult it can be and how much courage it takes to move to a new country and start fresh again. But you're in good hands. Canada is a great country, so it's going to be hard at the beginning, but then over time you're going to realize that it was the right choice. So happy to be here, and hopefully everybody finds this session valuable.
Thank you very much, guys. So it's safe to say we have about 20 years of experience between us, basically working with international students, with new Canadians, new immigrants and visitors to our country. And in terms of our experience, we have heard many stories about what it takes to learn a second language, and also some of the pitfalls, some of the issues, some of the problems that students have had. So on today's menu, by the way, if you have any questions for me, you can visit summerhillonlineacademy.com and register for a free consultation. If you have any questions for Anna or Patrick, please email info@celpip.ca, and you can get any questions from them if you have any questions about the CELPIP test, especially in terms of how to register, when to register, any issues or accommodations related to the CELPIP test. So let's go ahead and move on. So today we have a big agenda here. So first of all, I want to talk about some of the common reasons we fail at standardized language proficiency examinations. I've seen this over and over again. I see students that come, they have failed like 12 times, 13 times this test, and they failed TOEFL, IELTS, CELPIP. They're just having problems with learning the language. Some of the common pitfalls. Then we're going to talk about specific strategies for speaking, writing, reading, and listening. So specific strategies for all of these four areas of CELPIP, specifically CELPIP, how to improve your writing, speaking, listening, and reading. And at the same time, we're going to finish off with some general strategies. I'm going to talk about 2 general strategies and keep the question open. And there will be time for Q&A at the end. We love questions and answers, and we're happy to provide any sort of insight that we have. Now, what's actually unique about this workshop too is that as much as we are experienced and we have been with students, I think I've taught personally just in Toronto over 1,000 students during my college and my language school career. So I think I've dealt with over 1,000 students in my career here in Toronto. So I've heard a lot of stories. But things are always changing, things are moving, people are having new strategies. So for this presentation, we would like you, the audience, to participate in this presentation. And in order for you to participate, again, for such a large gathering as we have for these presentations, it's impossible for us to turn on the microphone and the video. But what we're going to use pollev.com. So what you can do now, even now we're going to test this out. So what you do is you get your handy dandy cell phone and you just go to your web browser, whether it's Safari or Chrome or whatever internet web browser you have on your phone, and you just type in pollev.com/macheboishe240, right? And what you
for
do,
anybody, just to,
yeah,
sorry for interrupting, but just for everybody to know, I did put the link there in the chat box. So there is a chat box in the corner and I put the link. So if you want to just click on it directly, whether you're on your computer or on your phone, you should be able to go ahead and enter it. And make sure to put your name on there. It could be just a simple nickname or a simple name, and you can go directly on there.
And we can see that already at least one of our participants is beginning to respond. So this is, I put this slide here kind of like a test to make things easier, but we want to see what people are having problems with the most. Is it speaking, writing, listening, and reading? We know that students don't always have problems with all of these sections at the same time. So this is actually really helpful for us as we begin and try to discuss these different issues. What kind of problems do we have? What is the biggest problem with CELPIP preparation? So far, we've got, this is like around here, speaking at 50%. Ooh, overwhelmingly speaking. We're going to take a little bit of time to let you guys go. And again, it's just go to pollev.com, and you can see at the very top of the page, it says pollev.com/macheboishe240. You can also click that link in the chat, and it will get you straight to it. In case you're using your computer, of course, you can always use your cell phone, tablet, or any device. And so we're looking at the statistics already. There might change, but guys, what do you think? Anna, are you surprised?
No, I think for me, it would have been speaking too.
Yeah.
Although writing, I'm actually surprised about the writing, because usually the main ones that people have more difficulty is the speaking and writing. But
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see listening is up there. So that's actually good to find out.
I am actually not surprised, because when we're thinking about how we learn naturally how we learn language naturally, it's usually speaking and listening, because we're having conversation, we're listening to someone, we're responding. And when we're reading and writing, usually we read something, we write something. So there's a combination there, right? And again, we think about using speaking and listening skills in a common world, and some people have a easy time with this, because and again, it depends on the market. Some people are just very comfortable speaking and communicating in the English language, and their academic writing and listening skills are different, are harder. But I think that generally speaking, I can see these issues. We're seeing writing kind of moving on, but speaking remains here. Speaking being the hardest issue here. What would you say, Patrick? Would you agree with this from your experience?
In terms of speaking being the hardest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the good thing about CELPIP, it just came to my mind, is that you're not talking to another person in a live interview, so that will take away some of the anxiety that you'll feel during the speaking test. So that'll be something that you guys can feel good about going into the test. But speaking is always going to be tricky, so I'm not totally surprised at it.
Yeah, and so what we're coming out here is speaking and writing. We're seeing some fluctuations
See?
here.
There you go.
A little bit there. So
It's proving
actually
me right.
proving you're right. So at Summerhill, we do provide private speaking and writing lessons. Those are the most common issues. We do help with reading and listening as well, but usually for private lessons, we have most students that just need help with writing specifically and speaking as well. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, guys. We have a next slide here. I just have a next slide here. And how, why do you think you have not been able to pass CELPIP so far? This is more of an open question here. And again, this is a very open question for the audience. Why do you think you have not been able to pass CELPIP so far? This is a little bit of a deeper question
You
instead
can
of just
type
choosing A, B,
the
and C.
response.
You can type a response, and I'm really interested about. So we're all here. Most of the attendees are here because they have tried CELPIP before. You're a first-time taker. Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Too
good.
much confidence.
I love that
Wow,
response.
not
That
enough
was great.
preparation. Okay. Yeah, I've noticed, like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna try it, see what happens, right? It's funny actually because time constraint, absolutely. It's funny because I am a native language speaker. I have worked as a teacher of English for years. I worked as a IELTS examiner. I've worked basically, like, my English is really perfect. But I do need to take a CELPIP test for my ICCRC license next month. And because of that legal designation, I do have to take it. Believe it, I have studied, I have prepared, I have studied. Because it is a standardized language proficiency examination. So however you might feel about it, even if you're a native language speaker, even if you're perfect at English, if you're taking the English test, you need a little bit of preparation, right? So yeah, time constraint, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Time constraint, we can see not enough training. So yeah, training is absolutely essential here. One more open-ended question here. And how do you learn best? And this going to be a follow-up to my next point. How do you learn best? And usually when we think about how we learn best, we talk about learning styles. And there are there's Kolb's learning style inventory, there's Green's learning style, there's so many different kinds of learning styles. But basically, we usually learn by listening and watching, solving problems and doing things, thinking and analyzing, just reflecting, or talking groups and talking together. Anna, how do you usually learn best?
I'm good at visual aspects. So if there's a blackboard, if there's somebody explaining things to me, that's easy for me. I know there's other people that need to read, or they need to have something more tangible, like realia learning. So there's various different ways, but I love visual things.
Yeah,
So for me, I'm on the top of the A list right now.
yeah, you're on top of the A list. Yeah, Patrick, how about you? How do you study best?
Yeah, I would say more, less reading, more engagement, real situations, doing rather than studying. Like, I prefer to have fun doing it. You know, if I'm, read something I enjoy rather than just reading just to improve reading. To actually read something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Learning with friends, stuff that's fun that I'll enjoy more, basically.
Okay, I would have to agree more with Patrick in the sense that I'm a very active learner. So if I'm not doing this, I'm not learning it. So that is exactly the same with languages too. I speak Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, Polish, and English. And I've learned these languages through acting, through participating, through actually, actively participating in a dialogue, meeting with friends, having conversations. Yes, watching movies, listening to music as well, but really practicing the language allows me to imprint the language as well. So even if I was listening and watching the language or observing people use the language, unless I actually try to communicate and get my ideas out there, I wouldn't be able to do that. But again, it's about learning styles. So when we think about, generally speaking, why we have issues, why we generally fail, first of all, learning style. Learning about your own learning style is so absolutely crucial because we learn differently. And this is something that I've seen a lot of problems with. I've seen students that said, I've tried to take this course, I can't take the course, I've tried studying by doing the test, I can't do it, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I'm not good. They put themselves down, I'm just not a good learner, they say. The issue, of course, is not that you're not a good learner, it's just people don't learn in the same ways. If it doesn't work for you, if this type of study method doesn't work for you, change it. Try a different method, right? And this is something I've always thought about when I'm recommending programs for teachers, or if I'm developing a new program. Always make sure that there's a multiple types of activities in the classroom. Or if you're doing a one-on-one lesson, or if you're teaching or studying by yourself, really understand what works for you. So trying different things, seeing what works and doesn't, and really following this. Anna, anything, or Patrick, do you have anything to add to learning styles? Anna, I think we've lost you there.
I was just saying that I think it's great to have various different styles because everyone learns differently. And it's important for you to find what you're comfortable with and then stick with that. And I do agree even with Patrick, like if you find things that are enjoyable. So if there's a book that you want to read and you enjoy that type of book, like for me, it'd be horror. I love horror books. So I would go directly straight to that. But that's still, there's so many great books out there that will enrich your vocabulary, that will give you more information that you need. And this, you're doing it on your own. So that's great.
Absolutely. The next thing I want to talk about is time management. And again, there are two aspects of time management that we need to discuss. First of all, the actual test, right? So if you're spending, if you know that you only have 30 minutes to do task one, and you're spending 1 hour writing task one, you're not practicing for the test, right? So it's okay to look back and review and proofread and revise. That's absolutely perfect. It's part of anybody's strategy to basically revise and redo and proofread your writing. But make sure to keep to those time limits. How long does it actually take you to write, and do it? Right? Now, apart from the online exams that we get for writing and for speaking, that timing is very important. But apart from that, the second part is time management for your life. When do you feel like you can study? Is it in the morning, afternoon, or evening? Now, I'm going to tell you from the fact here that I'm very good in the morning. Wake up in the morning, have my coffee, I can sit down, my brain works perfectly. In the afternoon, sure, I'm very good. But when the sun comes down, the moon is up, a transformation takes place. I'm no longer focused. I want to have fun, or I want to relax. I'm definitely more distracted, lazy. I want to play. I am not interested in studying. I can't really study. Even if I try to really study after, like, after 7 p.m., nothing is really going to go in. Guys, anything about time?
Well, I think Patrick is an evening person.
Yeah, I just happen to be that way. So for me, it's really whatever works for you. But some people are morning people, others are evening people. So the only thing I would say is just, try not to procrastinate. Don't leave it till the last minute, because then you're going to get stressed out, and that might affect how you're able to absorb the information. So that's what I think of when I think of time management.
Yeah, and when I think about time management, I just think about so many students who have very busy lives. And we have to understand that candidates for CELPIP have very busy lives. They're usually mature, they have jobs, they have careers, they have family, right? And the worst thing is just like, yeah, no worries, I'm going to study for CELPIP when my baby goes to sleep at 9 p.m.
It's tough.
It's, I wake up in the morning, I work in the afternoon, I have the babysitter, then I go put the baby back to sleep at 9 p.m. So at 9 p.m., I'm super tired, put the baby to sleep. That's my time to study. And what happens? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You're trying to sit there, you're actually wasting your time. Instead of resting, waking up earlier in the morning to study, you've designated that time for yourself, but it just doesn't work. So sometimes when we're looking about when we're going to study our CELPIP, when we're going to create our study schedule, we're thinking Holistically, we're thinking, we're strategizing, trying to fit in all the other things in our schedule, but we're not thinking about what our mindsets are at that moment when we choose to study. This is such a huge thing for so many different people. People fall into this pit so many times. I just needed to mention this. The thing is, I want to talk about, which is huge about any language, is a lack of context. And what I mean here is that you cannot learn the language without a context. That is to say, if you're not using the language in a meaningful way day to day, if you're not consuming the language in a meaningful way day to day, and you're just saving time, 1 hour or 2 hours for CELPIP training as a way for improving your language overall, you are doomed, basically, because you cannot improve in a CELPIP test just by doing the CELPIP. You have to immerse yourself in the language, and you have to immerse yourself in the context. Absolutely, you have to study CELPIP. You have to learn the format. You have to learn strategies and techniques to maximize the highest score. But if you're really trying to jump from something that if you've been getting a band 4 in CELPIP and you need a band 7, right? Just doing the practice exams over and over again isn't going to help you out. You have to find meaningful ways to do this. So we're actually going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about the ways to create context. Guys, anything else here before I move on?
Well, when I think about lack of context, it's like going into the movies halfway through. You don't know what the plot is, you don't know what's going on, but you're there present. So it's always best to know what the information is. And I think that's so important, especially for these tests, to know what the format is, what the content is, what type of questions you're going to be asked, so that you can prepare yourself well for this. So it's great.
The next point is procrastination, which Patrick talked about. Absolutely. I'll wait for the last moment, right? This has a problem, you know. Yeah, I have to do the CELPIP next month. What am I gonna do? Nothing, right? I still have 1 month. I'll still have 3 weeks. I still have 2 weeks. Anna, you're very experienced as a CELPIP instructor. You've talked to a lot of students. When do you think students should start studying for CELPIP before the actual CELPIP exam?
As soon as possible. It doesn't matter if you can start now, do it. Doesn't matter when your test is, because you really need to start focusing on certain areas. And I know today we're going to give you a little bit of tips about that, but at least a month, 2 months in advance, if you have that time, you need to take advantage of that. Because I know people, you always wait till the night before to start studying, to start reviewing, and then they get so nervous during the test that they end up not doing as well as they should have.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I usually recommend 2 months at a minimum. And the reason I say 2 months is 2 months, spend 1 month intensively training for the format, for the skills, for the approaches, and then spend 1 month focusing on your problem areas. Because after like a 1 month of studying, you may still realize you have some problems with listening, or just writing, or just reading, or just one of those areas, and you just gotta push them on. Because I get a lot of students who, you know, they study for a bit, they're pretty good, and then they're like band 8 speaking, band 8 listening, band 8 reading, band 6 writing, right? It's just, if that's the weakness, you need a little bit of push in that. You need to account for that, right? So you need to account for that. You do need to practice. And the actually opposite of procrastination, you know, pushing it too long, it's actually perfectionism. And this is actually a huge issue, especially for writing. Oh, speaking and for writing, especially for speaking and writing, people freeze up. Have you noticed that sometimes you've had cases where you have students and they're trying to practice speaking, and they're speaking and they're so focused on every mistake that they make that they're just like, it's like, oh, I just screwed up here. I can't go anymore. They stop in the middle of the sentence. They stop speaking and they're just like, I can't go on. I screwed up. What would you say about those students, Anna? What would you recommend?
Say continue, because many times, I mean, when we are having conversations, we will stop at some point. We'll have to breathe, think about what you want to say next. But when that happens, try to continue. Try not to stop saying anything. And if that happens, it's just for that small moment. Then continue. Try to continue on with the conversation, whatever the question was, but don't stop, because every little thing that you say will help you. Because sometimes people are so focused on the actual question, on the actual grammar or the sentence structure, that you might miss the information. So it's best just to focus what the question is, try to respond accordingly. And if you miss something, that's okay, just continue. But
Right.
don't be so worried about those little things, because that can really affect your performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Both for speaking and writing, I see a lot of students doing hang-ups, but what you got to remember is that native language speakers make a grammar mistake when they speak every third sentence, on average, for average native language speaker. That's just something that happens. The other thing is that CELPIP test does not demand perfection. It really does not. You can actually get a perfect score in CELPIP and still make a couple mistakes in both speaking and writing, right? So it's not about perfection. It's just being overall being proficient overall. And so when you think about that you don't have to be perfect in this test. Every answer does not need to be correct. Right? And the other thing is about speaking. Sometimes the students are very worried about making mistakes. Don't forget there are 4 examiners for speaking. There are 4 examiners that are doing your speaking test. So even if you think, oh, I made a mistake in the beginning, and then in the end, the examiner is going to think about the mistakes I made in the beginning. No, it's absolutely not true. The examiners that will be assessing the questions at the end will not be the same examiners, not the same humans that will be listening to you when you're doing section 1. So don't worry, if you screw up, keep going. Just do your best. Don't worry about perfection and keep going. So those are basically some of the reasons I think that most students fail. I think time management is probably one of the biggest problems. Just not being able to find that time, just not being confused. And I think I talked about most of them, but I think it's time for us to start talking about the actual parts here: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So we're going to talk more about the general test here: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. So we want to talk about all of these format. So we're going to start out first of all with speaking, and so strategies for speaking. So I'm going to open up the questions once again to our attendees. What is your speaking study strategy over here? So if you just go back to your polev.com, most of us at this point should already be able to easily get into this. How do you study for CELPIP speaking? What are your techniques here? Right? How do you study here? What are your techniques? What are your approaches here? And let's see what we're going to get. And I'm hoping to see some unique and insightful input here. I'm waiting for everyone to open up their phones. Myself, recording myself. Absolutely, right? Natural, sounding natural. Okay.
That's number one. It's key, recording yourself. Natural is a fantastic response. I like that.
You know, when the last speaking workshop that we did, Anna, we focused mostly about being natural, right? So not being academic. Like, first of all, I have 2 reasons this is true. First of all, look. Secondly, blah. Thirdly, blah. Right? We want to be natural instead of using those kind of fake day-to-day. All right. I like day-to-day, absolutely. Works out very well for me here. Friends, conversation. Speak. This is excellent. So we've got some speak. You know, one of the things that we have issues with, I've noticed this, when you're speaking English at work, and most of us are working in Toronto, Ontario, where most of our attendees are from all over the place. I know some people are from China, even, or from all over the world. But when you're speaking English in the workplace, do your colleagues usually correct you? No, your colleagues will not correct you because they respect you. Will your clients correct you? No, they will not correct you because they respect you too. So when we're speaking, communicating the workplace, one of the problems is we're not going to be corrected by our workmates, by our colleagues. We're not going to be corrected by our colleagues because they respect us, only if we ask them to. And sometimes it's very hard, and most of the time it's almost feels unusual or inappropriate to ask a colleague to correct your English when you're at your workplace. You do your best. This is where you get your friends, family, or this is so important to make connections, isn't it, outside of your workplace. And it could be in your workplace, it could be a colleague that you meet outside of your workplace or you talk to outside, but unless you ask your colleague to correct you when you make a mistake, they will not. And chances are, even if your English language is not correct, you're totally understandable, which is frustrating because they'll just keep listening for you. Family, friends. Family is hard. Friends and colleagues, you have to ask them to correct you on a daily basis, otherwise they won't. And then you can keep making all the mistakes, but you'll never progress.
This is this is actually a tough one, I think, because sometimes, I mean, when you are having these conversations, people sometimes tend to overthink things. Like they want to be so perfect in their grammar structure, in their language, in their pronunciation, that you end up being your own worst enemy because you're overthinking things.
Yeah.
So it's always better to have other people listen to you and get their feedback, because many times even those minor mistakes that you might have really doesn't affect your production. So sometimes you're able to respond correctly. You might have just a minor accent or a minor mistake, but you're doing such a great job. You're focused on the question. So that also influences a lot on people.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, absolutely good point, guys. Good point. Well, anyway, one respondent here had basically hit the nail on the head, and the point is the best overall self study strategy for speaking is to record yourself. Absolutely, without any doubt.
That's my my thing all the time. I think that's one of the things I repeat in every presentation that we have, is that if you want to know how your performance is, record yourself, because sometimes you don't realize the mistakes that you're making. And it's best to record yourself, listen to yourself, have somebody else listen to it, and see if they can understand it, because they should be able to understand what the context is about without even knowing the question. So that's very important.
The funny thing is, very few people actually do this.
I know.
They really don't. They don't like it. They tell me, I don't like the sound of my voice. Nobody likes the sound of their voice. Nobody. Absolutely nobody likes the sound. I hate the sound of my voice. I hate it. It's like, I sound like this? Yes. But the thing is that we often make mistakes when we speak. We make mistakes when we speak. But when we listen back and we hear ourselves speak, we can actually notice what the problems are. And it's quite ridiculous because as a tutor, I've worked as a one-on-one tutor for IELTS, for CELPIP, for TOEFL for years in my career, both in this country and other countries as well. And sometimes I would just bring my phone and give the student the question. I would record them and just play this sound back. 50% of the time, the student would find some faults with their speaking, and it's not just with the grammar. The first thing you want to do is listen to the structure. And we've already done like an hour and a half long CELPIP speaking webinar, so you guys can check that out on YouTube later. You can see the CELPIP speaking webinar workshop that we did. But there are actual things that you need to accomplish. We call these accomplishments, or things that you need to finish or complete, whether answering all three questions, or giving more than one opinion about something, or more often than not, finishing the question in a certain amount of time. And just like being cut off too early, or speaking over the moment where it says beep, or you can stop speaking now. You have to be able to practice to fit that answer. Anything about format that you guys want to add?
Well, I think format is absolutely important, but I think the biggest thing here is understanding the question, what is being asked, and then
Yeah,
trying to respond to that question. But I feel that many times there are students that are so worried about their accent, they're so worried about their grammar mistakes that they miss everything else. And many
yep,
times when you do record yourself, you will notice that there's a lot of repetition. And those are things that you need to improve more than the actual minor grammar mistake that you have is trying not to repeat the same words over and over, the same phrases, the same information over and over. Those are things that we want to know that you can produce other vocabulary, that you can give us different ideas. So those things you should always look out for.
yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you mentioned pronunciation, because this is something that people have a lot of problems with. Does accent have any effect on CELPIP? No, it doesn't. Accent has absolutely no effect on your CELPIP score. This is the same for IELTS, TOEFL. Accent has
Yeah,
no impact. Everybody has an
that's right.
accent. That's the implied way that we look at it when we're evaluating your scores on your speaking, or on your speaking. Accent has no effect whatsoever. Pronunciation may, if it impedes or distorts communication. So if you're calling a dog a dog, then that's a problem. But if you're pronouncing your the with a da, it has absolutely no impact. You can get a perfect score. You're Eastern European. I do it sometimes. I've lived in Canada all of my life. I get a da here instead of a the once in a while. No problem. So it really depends on what it is, as long as it impedes communication. But again, for language usage, you can hear yourself, you can record yourself, you can listen yourself, and you can you can notice some of the mistakes that you're making. Guys, anything you'd like to add about language usage specifically?
Well, many of the times when you are recording yourself, you will notice these mistakes. And it's just it takes a little bit of practice, but you can do this. So, I mean, even for us, we've repeated, I don't know how many times certain things. We're like, okay, when we listen to this in a webinar, we're like, okay, we have to correct that. So we know there are certain things that we do need to improve on. And this is a fantastic way, especially for the language use. I don't know if Patrick wants to add anything, but
I was just gonna say, yeah, and rest assured that the raters that are grading your speaking test, they have experience and are familiar with talking to people that from many different accents, many different parts of the world. So they have experience understanding and just try to speak as clearly as you can. And yeah, you will not lose marks for having an accent.
No, absolutely not. One thing I want to add about language usage here is, are you using sufficient amount of complex sentences? Now, I've sort of emphasized speaking complex sentences or complex use of language in both our speaking and writing workshop before. Again, you can check out YouTube and see how some of those workshops. But basically, using subordinations instead of just conjunctions, using more dependent clauses. So connectives, how are you connecting your language? Is your response just short, choppy little sentences? When it's a story, are you using past tense? That's something easy that you can recognize. And question 2 for speaking, it's past tense. Am I using past tense? In my writing, how many short, choppy sentences do I have? Right. So again, that's kind of more for writing and speaking. For speaking specifically, there are aspects of language that you're listening to that's not just whether it's right and wrong. Is there complexity? Is there connection between the sentences? How am I connecting my idea? And am I just using simple choppy sentences, or is there a variety of dependent and independent clauses, subordinations, and transitions when I'm speaking? And again, that's something that you can very easily, even as an intermediate student, sort of focus on. You can even write down some subordinations like because, although, if, and while, and some transitions like as a result, therefore, nevertheless. um,
there's a lot.
there's a lot, and just seeing how many of them am I using?
Yeah.
Am I using these correctly? Right. So again, recording yourself time and time and time again, tested, absolutely wonderful. I know you hate listening to your voice. Most of us do. but that is one of those beautiful things. So let's move on and go to writing. So once again, I want to open up to questions here. What is your study strategy for writing at this point? And again, there is so much stuff on the internet. I know there's YouTube videos, people would like to write things. And so let's take a look at how students are writing. Texting. Patrick, what do you think about texting? Is it a good way to study English?
Well, I mean, I know sometimes when we text friends, we use kind of short and broken English, but I guess the good thing about texting is it's something that you do every day. So maybe
Yeah.
prepare, you could try texting your friends in full proper English and keep doing it every day to study. But it is something you do every day, so it could be a source of improving your writing ability.
I think in
And
this context, I'm old school because I like writing proper sentences, full sentences, not just choppy sentences. So every time I look at stuff like that, I'm like, oh, come on, you can make an effort of actually writing the full thing. But that's me. That's like a personal thing. But yes, I do agree that nowadays a lot of people, they tend to write in shorter forms, and it really does affect the language because sometimes they do it so often that they'll use it in a regular email. And there it becomes very tricky because you shouldn't be doing that, especially, well, I guess it depends on who you're talking to. If it's your friends, then it's okay. But if you're writing a letter to somebody important, then you do have to now use the correct structure.
It is hard to say, we're going to start writing full letters to our friends. I know if I would start writing full letters to my friends, if I would start writing full letters to Anna and Patrick, they would never answer me. Never give me an answer. So, and this something comes to me for context. Context is important, and texting, making an effort to text every day. And I like what Patrick said. It's every day. It's real communication. It's very contextual, real communication, authentic communication from day-to-day life. So, and this is something that I've heard some stories, and I know that, some people are, husband and wife, or any couple who speaks the same language at home. Getting them to try to use English at home is almost next to impossible. Oh, we're gonna fight. We're gonna not understand each other. Oh, our language is just so much easier to understand each other. But if you just switch to when you're texting in English, you're switching that context suddenly. Suddenly you're trying to define those situations, those everyday problems, those everyday pesky, unexpected issues into the world of English language. So then you're sort of kind of switching. So when you come home and you've been discussing, you've been texting in English, now you're texting, you're now speaking about those issues in English, or at least open to the opportunity of doing that as well. But I mean, I've learned many languages. I've learned Spanish as my most recent language. I've learned how to write just by texting, switching my language in text to Spanish, and just seeing how words are even spelled, because you have an autocorrect. So I always like, okay, how do you spell "que"? How do you spell these different words? And it has helped me immensely, simply because if I have a random vocabulary that comes to my mind at that particular day, I can text, it autocorrects me, I'm sending it, I'm getting a real feedback. I think texting is absolutely great. So
now, from now on, I'll be texting you in Spanish, Miche.
Por favor, puedes escribirme en español todos los días.
Every day.
Por supuesto. Right, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the best responses here, and that actually has to do with me, is journal. So I'm the type of person who likes to write journals every day. So it's actually something very simple. I have an app that's called 5-Minute Journal, and it gives me the opportunity in the morning just to sort of think about things that I appreciate in life, people that I'm always with. So there's things to be grateful for, and I'm always writing little things, but it actually helps you to write a little bit more too. So now I'm making an effort to write more and more each time, but it's a good way just for little practices. So something that
absolutely. This is one of our main points, and you have a special diary too, which we're going to talk about, which is really awesome. When I heard about this, this diary. I thought it was really good. But some writing strategies. Okay, so again, for normal friends, normal people that you write with, it's actually really hard to find someone that you can write an email to and then they'll email you back unless they're your clients, right? So we know that we are doing lots of emails every day. We know that task one for CELPIP is writing an email. So you have to write emails. And where in your practical life will you write emails that are long, structured, 150 words, usually maybe to your professor, to your fellow student, or even less commonly would be like 2 words for your fellow student, and possibly when you're doing any sort of legal paperwork or maybe with your clients. But there are such things as pen pals. So pen pals are basically writing friends, pen pals, and there are different ways to do pen pals, but one of the methods you can do pen pals is there are many websites out there that actually help to match you with a pen pal. So all you do is just go Google pen pal, and you're going to find maybe like 5, 6 different websites that are going to pop out. You register and you match with someone that will be your pen pal. And basically, a pen pal relationship is basically you write an email to them, you write a letter to them, they write a letter to you. And you just go back and forth. It could be topical, it could be something else. But again, it's something that keeps you motivated to keep writing and reading and responding to real context. So this is actually a really wonderful thing. The other thing you can do is when we're thinking about pen pals, it doesn't have to be just a random person that you meet. It could be someone that you know in your community or even better outside of your community, but still needs to do CELPIP, that you can promise to have a pen pal relationship for a certain amount of time. So you're saying, just commit with me. Every day, every second day, we write something. You write to me on Monday, I write to you on Tuesday, you write to me on Wednesday, and we just keep going back and forth, or at least once a week or twice a week. And what you do is just write, and the other person reads and corrects and say, usually the other person is able to pick up on 1 or 2 problems that you did that you didn't notice. This especially works if you're a Spanish speaker. Partner up with a Korean speaker, because the Korean speaker will make mistakes which are slightly different than the Spanish speaker, and vice versa. So when there's 2 Spanish speakers doing the same thing, the chances of you guys making exactly the same mistakes is a little bit higher. But if you match with someone from a different language background that's also studying English or is also studying for CELPIP, that's your best bet in terms of pen pal relationship. Guys, any experience with pen pals that you had? Patrick or Anna?
Well, I'd ask you if a pen pal was a type of pen. I actually never had a pen pal before, but it's a wonderful idea.
Generational. For me, I did pen pals when I was in high school. So we used to communicate with somebody from a different country, and we used to physically write letters to them at that time. Right now, you could actually do it, by texting or by writing by writing through your phones or a computer. But before, we used to actually physically write it down. But I had a lot of fun with that. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it is something. It was one of the earliest assignments I had, like maybe in high school. Our teacher signed us up to do some pen pals, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being able to write someone. It's kind of mysterious. You write to someone, they write back to you, and especially if you're writing to someone that's in a different culture or different country or different regions. It's not like today's everything is so fast paced. It's so immediate. Right? So when we're meeting face to face and we're Skyping, we're just talking, it's so immediate, it's very good. But one thing that we forget about writing, when we're actually writing to someone, we're planning and we're reflecting. So I would consider writing as a type of thinking. And that's a big distinction, because we're speaking, we're expressing, we're thinking out loud. But when we're writing a message to someone, it's a kind of thinking as we're speaking, because we're trying to organize our message to be as precise as we possibly can. And that is one of the first steps to really improving writing overall. Just planning and reflecting about what you want to express before you press send. and really express it, which is the unique aspect of writing. And that helps with all forms of organization and makes you a faster writer as well. Anything you guys want to add about pen pals?
Oh, I think we should find Patrick a pen pal right now. So one of the people from the audience.
It'll be a challenge for us to.
I already have a lot of pens at home, but thanks.
Diary. Okay, so Anna, tell us more about your diary. What is it called and how does it work?
Well, I just briefly mentioned it, but it's called 5-Minute Journal, and it's an app where you can just write down your thoughts, things that you're grateful for, things that you're going to do during the day, things you want to accomplish.
It's an app for your phone?
It's an app on my phone, and it's fantastic. It really, tells you like what you want to do, and you can put photos on it. If you could see, like, I actually have things written down, but you can post pictures. So it's just to help you even reminisce about information, things that you wanted to do. And at the end of the day, then you can write down what you've accomplished, what you could have done better that day. But it's actually a great motivator for me. And it keeps me focused on the things that I want to do that day. So I love it. I know it's not for everybody, but I really enjoy using the 5-Minute Journal, and it keeps me, writing down information and things that I want to do. So yeah, it's great.
And again, this is wonderful because I'm hearing context. This is what I mean about context. When you're writing, and it's a writing in the context. And as writing in the diary, and she's doing it for herself. It helps her. It's a meaningful exercise. When you're writing and it doesn't feel meaningful, it feels artificial, it seems like it's outside of what you find to be meaningful in your life, you will forget it, right? Our brains are designed very efficiently. When you read something boring, you are going to forget. You're just, what am I reading? I have no idea. Your brain just makes you forget about things, right? You just disengage. And you're supposed to do that because your brain, if you're smart, your brain is designed to filter out and push out information which it deems to be boring. So again, CELPIP tests practice, very important. Absolutely, we need to do CELPIP practice tests, but we have to do more. We have to bring ourselves into the context of that language. So whether you're doing pen pals and communicating with a human being for whatever topics you're discussing, or you're writing a diary for yourself, where you're reflecting about what you're writing, this is how you improve the context of what you're doing. So I think that's really one of the things. Again, we talked a lot about writing. Yes, and again, we're not just saying practicing and practicing. Again, when you're writing your practice exams, that's absolutely important. That's obvious. You do, however, need to get a tutor to look at it, to correct it, to give you feedback. But for self-study strategies, something that you can do yourself, where you don't need a teacher, you don't need a program for, these are ways that can drastically improve your writing just by bringing English writing, those productive skills of speaking and writing, into your everyday life, which is such a tremendous transformative impact. It has such a transformative impact on your ability to improve. So let's move. Reading, okay, here we go. Yeah, we've been blasting through here, but reading, here we go. What is your strategy for reading? We don't want to go too fast here, but let's keep going here. Let's open our discussion again. How do you study for CELPIP reading? And again, I want to ask you, sports, good. I'm asking deep questions here. These are great answers. We don't mean just doing the CELPIP reading test. We know we have to do them, but you have to do a lot more to improve in your reading. Things. Yes. Read, understand, subjects, sports, news. I'm gonna have news is getting out there. How many of you guys would agree with news, right? Do you guys watch the news on a daily basis?
I read sports news on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking to one of my friends, Sarah Lira, who has been an English teacher for 20 years, a wonderful teacher. She works for the TDSB right now. One of the things she recommended to me, because I called her this week, just to see what she thought, and she said CTV. CTV.com has these 2-minute news reels. And it's just like, it's tremendous content. 2 minutes, it's daily news, it's daily local news. So it's news about your life, about your city, about your environment. It could be weather. It could be, vaccination changes. It could be just, new announcements about restrictions or things opening up. But in those 2 solid minutes, it's a recorded. You can listen to it over and over again. So it's really good for listening. Also for reading. There's so many great news here too, right? Absolutely. Let's see. What else do we have? Favorite.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's important. If you're reading, and I know I just mentioned this before, but if you're reading something that you enjoy reading, that will make it so much better, because then you're making the effort of reading books or articles or whatever you can find. But it's always great to do something that you enjoy instead of doing it forcefully. So
Yeah, and again, I would have to say one of the big points for reading here, this is absolutely wonderful point here, is absolutely read what you like. If you like science fiction, if you like comic books, if you like graphic novels, if you're interested in horror, or you're interested in romance, or if you're interested in biographies, science, history, as long as you're reading something that you like in that language, you are going to improve in your overall reading as well. Absolutely. And I've heard suggestions that, because CELPIP or sometimes IELTS has more academic subjects, you should be reading academic subjects. I found mixed response. If you like academic subjects, go right ahead. But if you don't, you will be lost. You will lose interest. You will quit. And that's just something that you can't do. So just read something that you like. And again, think about the level that you're reading, right? Maybe, and we know some of us, we come, I know a lot of CELPIP takers come from their countries where they've been doctors, lawyers, judges, professionals in their fields, and they're used to reading, trade journals and academic journals, and sometimes highbrow books, poems, works of art and literature. And then they all try to find these classics here in the library, and they're opening up and they're like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. This is too hard. I'm just going to quit.
yeah.
Right?
One of the things that has motivated me is that recently I've at work, we've joined a book club, which is sort of out of my element because I usually prefer to read my own type of books. But this has been so enriching because there's been books like for cultural books or autobiographies that I never would have personally selected, but they've been so great. And then having the chance to talk about it with my friends or my colleagues has been wonderful. So this is actually the first time I've joined a book club, but I've been enjoying it so much.
I think that's one of the points we have. One of the things I always wanted to mention is where, when, and what do you read? Those are very quick questions. When do you read? You will read in the morning, evening, or the afternoon, right? And a lot of people like to read right before they go to sleep. Reading on the subway, if you're still commuting. A lot of us now are working from home, but if you are commuting, I love reading a book when I'm commuting. A lot of people are just playing with their phones, doing Candy Crush for an hour every single day. Maybe you can supplement that with a little bit of reading. Get a book. And again, what are you reading is the other question. What are you reading? Right? And sometimes reading something a little bit more trashy or a little bit more, let's say, a little bit easier. A teenage novel about vampires may sound terrible to you at this point if you're over the age of 40. But you know what? In the context of learning English, it might just be the right thing for you, right? So when are you reading? Where are you reading? And again, this kind of ties back to time management. A lot of us tell ourselves we're going to spend an hour doing that reading, but I have kids, or I'm tired at that time, or I have something else to do that I haven't finished. And again, it's hard. I'm an excellent reader in the evening. Again, my brain works well at night for reading. It's kind of a relaxing activity for me. In the morning, I'm just too hyper and active. I want to drink coffee and do things. So it really depends. Know yourself, know your personality type. The other thing we talked about is reading clubs. Absolutely. Recently, I'm not sure if any of you guys know meetup.com. It's kind of famous, meetup.com. And meetup.com is is just a website where you have a lot of clubs. There are tons of reading clubs, and basically you read a book and then you discuss it. You mentioned you had one at work. How does that work for you guys? Do you just read something? How often do you
No,
guys read?
we actually decide, so we get to choose a random book that we want to read, and then we'll put it into we'll vote on it. And the one that's the popular vote, then we'll all read it at a certain time. So we're given like 2 weeks to read it. And then we'll get together, we'll have a drink together and talk about it. So it's actually quite enjoyable. I've never done that before, but just I said, why not? And I've tried it and I really, really do like it. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. And that's just, for the fun of it. So, but it's allowed me to read various books that I would not normally choose on my own, but they've been amazing. So
Well, it's a great social interaction as well. You're communicating, and again, whatever you're doing, like when you're doing a reading club, you're also writing, you're also speaking. All of these are all contextual, holistic activities that activate your language in the real world. And again, one of the common problems I have is students just don't practice English at home because their spouse or their girlfriend or whoever they're living with doesn't use that language. You need to find ways to engage yourself with the language outside of your normal routine, or this will be a very difficult task for you. Listening, once again, here we go. We're opening it up to our audience. The last part, we have listening strategies. And at the beginning, at least, this was a hard issue for a lot of us. A lot of students have been having problems with listening. I know that we had probably more people attending our listening sessions than any other session so far. And again, it's surprising, but a lot of us have a lot of problems with listening. Audiobooks, podcasts are the 2 points we are, in fact, going to talk about today. Patrick, do you like do you do podcasts, audiobooks?
I listen to, like, I'm on YouTube a lot, so I'll listen to like sports stuff where there's an interview between two people, like an athlete and a reporter, or they have podcasts where they talk about sports because that's what I'm interested in. So yeah, podcasts are really popular right now. So they have them on all different types of topics, but mainly for me, it's sports when
Yeah,
I'm listening to something.
yeah, absolutely. Anna,
I do
anything you'd
listen to
recommend?
podcasts all the time, but that's when I go for a walk, I listen to a podcast. And usually it's about mystery or serial killers or something, but it's always like the who done it type of a podcast. But I do listen to a lot of different types of interviews as well, so it's been really great and I enjoy my walks more because of that. And the
Mhm.
other option is the audiobooks. The audiobooks, I actually prefer reading a book. But one time I did try an audiobook with a Stephen King novel, and it was amazing because the person that was reading it had all these different voices and characters, so you could really imagine the scenario. So that was so great. And I would probably maybe do that from time to time, the audiobooks, but then for me, there's always that preference of using the actual books and turning the pages. But yeah, I definitely highly recommend them.
Yeah, absolutely. Audiobooks, podcasts are a solid
Yeah.
entry. And again, I think what we're here, like, I hope that the audience here is getting the point. It doesn't matter what you're really listening to, whether it's sports, it's audio, it's mysteries, whether it's bbc.co.uk, absolutely. Whether it's cartoons, TED Talks are wonderful. I've been listening to a lot of Joe Rogan as in podcasts. Jordan Peterson is really good for me. I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. I've completed the full Witcher series of the audiobooks. It's on YouTube. It's free. There's a lot of audiobooks out there, classic audiobooks. So I absolutely love audiobooks. And what's really nice, and audiobooks help me to go to sleep. I usually like to watch something or something, but in the evening, I usually put on some sort of audiobook, and that gets me really into a nice dreamy state, like a bedtime story. And when I'm exercising, again, podcasts are absolutely wonderful as well, wherever you're going, walking and doing stuff like that. So
I love how somebody put the link there for BBC.
oh,
That is fantastic. Anything from BBC radio or podcasts, those are really, really good. I love that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. Two things I want to say is absolutely podcasts, audiobooks. Again, those are huge. The other thing is movies with no subtitles. Okay.
Oh, that's a great one. I love that one. Yes.
Just as a case in point, I have watched movies from all over the world. I'm really a big fan of Akira Kurosawa, but I do not speak Japanese because I've watched all those movies with subtitles. So if I can watch an Akira Kurosawa film with subtitles and understand, you're not really enjoying the film unless you turn those subtitles off. And again, this is actually more for intermediate speakers more than anything else, or lower intermediate speakers. You may feel tempted to put on those subtitles when you're watching your television programs or movies, but don't. And again, what's really nice, and especially in one way that I've actually improved with my Spanish, is I would pick out some easier Spanish television shows that were just about 20 minutes. And I really like that 20-minute episode. And again, something that's really difficult. I know that the characters are speaking very quickly and they're using different idioms and expressions that I don't understand. I just listen, I watch, and I try to understand in the context, which is sometimes the visual active aspect of the scene helps to communicate and helps you guess. And just guessing the meaning, you may not be right the whole time, but just guessing the meaning, 50% time you are right. And being able to guess the meaning is one of the skills that you're training. Guys, you want to say anything here?
I think one of my top ones that I've always recommended students to watch is the series Friends. Friends has been an absolutely wonderful series for people to try to understand because they use a lot of expressions, they use a lot of gestures, and it's so great for a classroom. I've even used that as a lesson for a class because they do it so well that they even have, I think, the reunion that's included as well, but you can get that,
Yeah.
you can watch it for free if you're like on Netflix, or I don't know which avenues there are, but yeah, it's that I always recommend. It's been the best.
Patrick, would you recommend any TV shows for a sport-loving audience?
Well, I mean, there's things like they have the pregame before the game where they talk about it and
The
they analyze who's
commentator.
going to be the big player. What are the strategies for the team to win? So,
Fantastic.
yeah, so stuff like that jumps out at me. Yeah, and then YouTube is your best friend. Like it's got so much stuff, whatever you're interested in, where people are talking on different topics or reviewing how a sports team did this year, that kind of thing. So everything's at your disposal in your smartphone, in your hand.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I would also like to add that there are many CELPIP listening and CELPIP reading apps available on the App Store or Google Store. And again, they're just apps you can use on your phone. One of the reasons I don't recommend them too highly is because sometimes they make many mistakes. The quality is quite variable. To make an app like that, especially if you have a free app or is a very cheap app, it's like 99 cents or $2, the effort made to make those exams, again, they will not be using actual CELPIP reading or CELPIP writing questions. The programmers make them all their own. So they're not always reliable as a way of gauging your actual performance in the CELPIP reading and listening. Nevertheless, there's still a bit of a practice, so I would recommend that. But again, for my purposes, if I want to learn a new language, I try to stick to contexts that are meaningful to me, that I'm actually interested in. So I would start with podcasts, audio books, and movies with no subtitles about topics, about things that I am personally interested in order to engage myself with that language. So we're going to basically finish off now here. And the last thing I want to do is I want to talk about two major general strategies. I've been thinking about this for quite a few weeks now, really trying to think about strategies that are general strategies. So I'm going to talk about two major strategies for just generally improving an overall performance before allowing the audience to give their last 2 cents to see if we have anything else we couldn't cover, but our smart audience here can share with us here. But basically, one of the things that I really like is called the vocabulary journal. And again, there are different variations of this. Many students keep a vocabulary journal, and what they do is then when they learn a new word, they write the word down, they write the definition, and there you go. There you go. There you have the vocabulary journal. This is kind of a variation. So this is just a paper. I stick to the paper and pen method myself. It's just faster that way. And writing out, it actually helps me to think about it more. But you carry this around, and in the moment that you learn a new word, again, you just write it down. As an example, you hear the word scarce. Right? You hear the word scarce, you write the word down. And now at this point, you'd be tempted to write a definition. Now it's okay if you're not sure about scarce, you can check the definition on your phone at that moment. You can ask someone in the context at that moment, but you're learning that word. Just learn the word scarce. First thing you do is you do not write the definition. You do not translate in your own language the word. What you do is you write a sentence using that word in the context. Example, vaccine supplies are scarce in Canada at the moment. Okay, scarce, and most of us, when we're reading this word in the context of the sentence, you begin to see the meaning. It means it's not very easy to find, right? Or I can say, I have scarcely seen my friends over the last few months. Here I'm using it as an adverb, right? So in my vocabulary journey, I'm not writing a translation of the word in my own language. I'm not just going to copy definition. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write a sentence with that word in the context of that sentence. And what happens is probably 50% of the time, you will forget this word. You will forget this word. But here's the element. This is what really works here. When you go back and review, when you begin to review, you will view by looking at that word in a context of a sentence that you wrote. And half of the time, if you forget, and half of the time you read this sentence again, you will remember the definition, you remember the meaning in the context, which is the most natural way, the most natural and effective way to learn a language. Now, at this point, if you still not sure, you can again look up the definition or translation if you still can't remember the word through the sentence that you wrote that has the context. But usually, most of the time, you'll be able to remember, and this is such an effective way of study. Guys, have you tried this method before for any languages that you've learned? I know, Patrick, you've been studying Spanish.
Yeah, I honestly, my preparation for Spanish has mainly just been talking to friends who are Spanish speaking, but this sounds like a great method, but no, I haven't used it before. But yeah, it looks like a great method though, and everything is repetition. Keep doing it over and over, and then you can remember the words that you're learning and how they're used.
I use it all the time, but not for learning English, but it's more for playing Scrabble.
Okay, yeah.
Have more vocabulary words to remember, but usually I'll write like words or sentences so I can remember them for next time, because there are some words in Scrabble that I have no idea what they are. And they have these obscure words, so I'll write them down and then try to remember, because when I play with my mother-in-law or with my husband, we have to know the definition of it. So we either need to know the definition or we need to put it into a sentence. So we need to understand the word. So
I definitely feel like a future Scrabble game is going. It's gonna happen, and yeah, I will most likely win. Next and finally, the last thing that I want to say here, and it seems like it's an obvious thing, but make a study plan and stick to it. And
Yeah.
what I mean study plan, and again, today we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about procrastination, perfectionism, time management, understanding your learning style, right? Understanding what activities will help you improve. What you want to do, what you need to do is make a concise study plan and stick to it. It's got to be a realistic study plan. One of the reasons the study plans fail is you just put too much on your table and then you can't do it, right? You overexert yourself. Start slow, little baby steps, small accomplishments to getting what you do. This is where it comes back what Anna said. You have to start as soon as you possibly can. Just you're waiting for the last moment means that you're going to create a study strategy so intensive, so harsh for yourself. You may quit, or you may just not stay focused or enjoy doing what you're doing during that time. So create a study plan that's realistic, that works for you, and that includes at least some of the study strategies we've talked about, that really puts your language into context, and then just stick to it, right?
And making little changes throughout the day will make a huge difference. Because I know for me to read, usually I'll read in the morning, but I'll set aside 15 minutes in the morning to read something. So
Yeah.
there could be minor sacrifices, because I do understand that people have a very busy schedule, or they're caught up in so many other things.
Whoa.
My husband's
Right?
playing video games. Sorry about that. You know, things just pop up in the moment. But
Working from home is awesome. Yes.
I know we get surprises all the time, so I apologize for that. But yes, I mean, I always try to do different things every day, and then that actually helps me improve, whether it's my pronunciation, whether it's my reading, whether it's vocabulary. Those little things will help you improve, and then you'll get used to doing it. So try making minor changes every day, and you'll see there's going to be a big improvement later on.
Yep.
Right. So last chance here for all of us, guys. I want to know, are there any other strategies you would recommend? We're talking about global strategies. You guys are the students, you have done this, so this is the last session here. Any big tips here? And we've talked about a lot of tips today. We've talked a lot about self-study strategies and approaches. Keep it fun. I couldn't agree more. If it's not fun, if it's boring, make it fun. Turn it into a game. You know, one of the things that you can do to turn reading and listening fun is turn into a game. Find someone out there to do the reading with. Okay, it's just like, okay, how many did you get? Oh, okay.
I love these answers.
Yeah, I love that. Be focused. No, don't give up. Yes, keep it fun. I've recently studied. I'm studying for not a language test, but I'm studying for an ICCRC exam. And my study partner and I, someone I'm going to do future business with, we printed out the giant test that has 140 multiple choice questions, and we just go to a park, sit at the park, and we do 10 at a time, and whoever gets the highest score at the time wins, and the one who loses has to do some crazy park humiliation, like do a dance, play a song, eat a leaf. Again, this is my kind of fun here, but yeah, again, you know, if you're having fun and turn it into some sort of game, absolutely it can work.
I love the positive thinking. That's me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Positive thinking, so important. Yeah, it's your approach to it, how you're dealing with it. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, all you can do once you take the test is do the best that you can. I mean, we're not expecting perfection from every single individual, but if you put your effort into it, if you've practiced enough, you've reviewed even the test, you understand what the format is about, all these little things will help you improve on the test and in life in general too.
Yes, absolutely. Leave the fears aside.
I love that.
You know, anxiety is such an
Yeah.
issue for so many of us, right?
I have faith.
Have faith. Have faith. Yeah, go in there with confidence and just do it. Just do it with confidence. Don't second guess yourself. And again, for speaking, I've had so many students that have had issues because they're just, you know, they're just bummed out Again, we've been talking about listening, reading, and speaking a lot here, and we have a lot of we're going to be finishing up here because we're a little bit over time. But in any case, let's go ahead and open up to Q&A. Final questions and answers here. Patrick, do you have any questions for us?
I can see one question already. It says if this webinar, excuse me, is recorded. It is recorded, and we will be sending it to you in about an hour after the presentation. So you'll receive the recording plus information about Maciej, information about us if you want to contact us. And there's going to be a mini survey right after this. So once you close in, if you can help us with that survey, it usually takes about 3 minutes to respond to, just to help us improve our presentations in general. So that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And this recording will also be on our Summerhill Online Academy. It will be also on the YouTube channel. So if you look at YouTube and you search Summerhill Online Academy, you can go ahead and see all of our past workshops, and this one will be up. Usually we post these within a week of time. But if you're here, you will get a link to this recording so you can watch this again. But you can also, if you've missed some of our workshops, and again, our speaking, writing, reading, and listening workshops are great. You can also check us out on YouTube, and you can find more workshops there for free as well.
Great.
Any other questions, guys?
No, it says thanks so much, guys, for your efforts. Enjoyed it. It was fun. Keep it up. I think we always have fun in these presentations because we dynamics. We just enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
But please check out the other YouTube videos that Maciej has on the YouTube channel, because it does separate, like if you want to practice just the English, it'll give you a lot of good tips and strategies for the speaking specifically, for writing, for listening, for reading. So there's a whole gamma of different options to listen to. So I highly recommend to check those out.
Yeah, anyway, if you have any questions about me, you can search for summerhillonlineacademy.com, fill out a free registration or program inquiry form. I always provide free one-on-one consultation to any students who are interested. We also, if you have any questions about CELPIP testing, registering for CELPIP, or if you have any questions about it, just email info@celpip.ca. Please do check us out on YouTube. We have lots of videos available for you. And so you can just subscribe to see updates of all of our new videos and upcoming workshops as well. And just coming up, if you're having problems with CELPIP, again, one of the things is self strategies are absolutely essential. You have to improve your language overall. However, if you're struggling with CELPIP, or if you've never taken CELPIP before and have no experience, you may find our CELPIP preparation program very useful. We have this is a monthly program. It's a 4-week program. It's 2 hours a day, Monday to Friday, from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. These are live classes, small classes of up to 9 or 10 students maximum. Usually these are 7 to 10 students in each classroom with a CELPIP certified teacher. They're interactive, and they deal with speaking, listening, reading, writing strategies for band 7 and up. The full course is $650 and begins this June 7, this Monday, June 7. So if you'd like to register, fill out a form, send me an email. I'm always happy to help you guys out. So at this point, thank you very much for attending, guys. If you guys have any final questions.
No, there's one last comment I see. It says, when I started studying, I asked my domestic classmates to correct me, and they helped me so much. That's such a great comment, because it was one of the ones that you recommended, Maciej. I think that's such a wonderful thing to hear.
Yeah, remember, your workmates will not correct you. Your English-speaking friends may never correct you unless you ask them to, but only real friends or really good close colleagues will, because they care about you, right? Because if they don't care about you, they won't correct you, because why make the effort, right? Why make the effort? Sometimes, most of the time, people are very happy to make the effort to help someone. They know that you're their colleague, their friend. They want you to succeed in life, so they will help you. They will correct you. But one of the reasons they will not correct you is because they respect you and they don't want to insult you. So you have to communicate that. You have to make that initiative. Otherwise, no changes can be made. Right. So again, I'd like to thank my colleagues Patrick and Anna for joining me at this workshop once again. And we will be continuing to do these workshops every month. So thank you very much for everyone who's attending, and so long.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Till next time.
Be safe, everybody.
Take care.